Jeremy S. Cook here, and today I'll be going over how I made an awesome case for my Raspberry Pi network attached storage setup using a recycled Lenovo desktop PC. You can see me here, I've got my Raspberry Pi NAS set up. This was fine when I was getting everything to work together, but obviously this is not going to work in something in the living room or anywhere else long term. So that's what I eventually came up with. That's the Lenovo case, and you can see the little heatsink in there that I made in another video. Opens up and you can see the powered USB hub, Raspberry Pi, and a couple hard drives. Looks pretty good in my humble opinion. So if you like that, follow along to see how I made a NAS enclosure out of an old Lenovo desktop case. So here's how everything sits in there. I had to get it, obviously do quite a bit of stuff to the case to get it to this point, but it's kind of making sure that everything will actually fit in there. A couple hard drives and stuff. So this before I did, well, I'd taken out the stuff on the right, some of the internal elements, but one thing I wanted to do was take out the DVD-ROM bay. Took out the rivets with a drill, and then had to take a few more on the back as well. After that, it popped right out. There were a couple studs on the bottom that I decided to take out with my grinding wheel as well, or the cutting wheel. Love to see those sparks flying. And this is kind of roughly the way I'll put everything on there. I got the Pi to the right, upper right, got the hub on the left, and then a couple hard drives there. There's enough room, I probably could fit in a couple more hard drives, especially if I stack them somehow. But for now, everything's on one level, and I'll be fastening everything down with Velcro. That's one of the hard drives that actually had Velcro stuck on there before from another sort of setup I had. Put the backing tape on there, and the adhesive holds it down very nicely. Of course, it's not like this enclosure is going to take that much stress anyway, so probably you could get away with not putting any Velcro on this whatsoever. Although the Pi I'm a little bit leery about, because the bottom, obviously there's some contacts there in the case. The bottom of the case is conductive. In fact, the Raspberry Pi 3B that I was using, I did not attach it to the case directly through its Velcro. I made a little standoff for this, standoff enclosure. So I'll put the STL for that. I'll link that somehow on the description, but if you want to do something yourself. But the standoffs, I didn't use screws for this. I actually used zip ties. You could see it in the description there, and when it came out, you could barely read it. But if you're printing it, you know what to do, I guess. So there it is. The Pi fits right up to it, and since they have all the dimensions on their website, I was pretty sure that everything would match up correctly. So put the zip tie in there, zip tie one side and the other, and then the other two sides as well. With that all zipped up, you clip off the excess, and then you're ready to Velcro it on. Nice thing about that is if you need to adjust anything, you just have to take the Velcro up, or if there's a big adjustment, you got to pull the adhesive off, which I had to do to make sure everything could fit on it. One thing that's neat about this USB hub is that it's got a 2.4 amp power plug on it, so that feeds the 5 pipe pretty well. I think it's supposed to be about 2.5, but so far I haven't had any sort of problems. Your results may vary, of course. On the back, you can see everything's locked down with a zip tie as kind of a strain relief. That's the power for the USB hub and the Ethernet cable. Looks pretty good. Everything's fed from the USB hub, which is nice. Only had to have one power cable. With everything hooked up, I thought I'd do one more thing and put my logo on it. Jeremy S. Cook with one of my walker contraptions. As it turns out, I put way too much paint on it. So I decided to go back, scrape that off, and go back to another idea I had, which was just to put 6 letters on it. That's right, just RPI NAS for exactly what it is. I used the stencil font in Fusion 360, which makes it really easy to make stencils, which is what it's for, obviously. You don't have to have any sort of support material. You just draw it and then print it out, and then you can use it as a stencil. Obviously, a laser cutter or anything else you have would work for this as well, but it's pretty easy to use a printer on this as well. So there it is, RPI NAS. Nice looking font, I think. Kind of looks, real basic and kind of tough, almost like a military look. I put some extra tape on that, and that's such a satisfying sound. Pulling that off, and looks really good. Kind of a weathered look almost. Here's my overall setup. You've got a UPS right there, and then there's my case and everything. Looks pretty good. So logging onto it, I use this Net Watcher application to see where the Raspberry Pi is. I think you could assign a static IP address so it comes up the same every time, but haven't done that yet. Check out the heat here, or the temperature, and it's about 53.7. And then, yeah, I did this in the other video where I went over how to make a heat sink out of the same computer that I used for this. So that's been quite the nice source of parts. And here I am on my computer. I'm logging on to my Raspberry Pi NAS, network attached storage, just making sure I can use it correctly. So here's a picture that I took quite a while ago. It's kind of cool to be able to browse your pictures that you don't necessarily access every day. So I've got two hard drives here. There's one for business and one for, my personal life. There's a backup that's a Pat Regan podcast that we made a while ago. I definitely recommend checking that out with me and Max Maker, but as you can see there, it's actually copying that file to the same hard drive. So I don't need that. Decided to instead copy to my desktop on my local PC. I'm getting about 5 megabytes per second. That doesn't sound great, and it's not excellent, but in internet speak, that's more like 40 megabits per second. So that's a little bit more reasonable. It's useful to browse files and stuff like that, but as far as local storage, you're not going to compete with the local solid state drive, at least not with my 3B that I'm using right now. So there's kind of my personal drive and my business drive. I got two separate things. Transferring a file from one drive to another, not getting great speed on that either. Perhaps a Raspberry Pi 4 with the USB 3.0 ports would do better, but it's not planning to do a lot of hard drive to hard drive transfers anyway. Here's some pictures I took a long time ago on my personal drive of some nature and waterfalls and such. Really cool to be able to browse some of your files that you don't necessarily get to see every day that are just stuck in a external hard drive or a safe somewhere. You just have almost instant access to them. I think that's really cool, but I do recommend having another hard drive in a safe somewhere. You could incrementally back that up if you have some really important photos and stuff. There's my dog Evie and my friend Sean. They were okay. They were just checking out this waterfall right here. So yeah, I thought it was a really cool project and really useful too if you got a lot of storage to take care of, especially between several different people. So if you thought it was cool too, I'd invite you to give this video a thumbs up, maybe subscribe, or even leave me a comment. Thanks so much for watching. This is Jeremy S. Cook, signing off.